Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a breakdown of Season 3 of That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, or as most of us call it, Tensura. Now, if you're a fan of the first two seasons, you may have noticed Season 3 felt different. So, we're here to talk about what exactly went wrong and where this season missed the mark, as well as what still made it worth watching. And stick around, because I'll be sharing why I'm still excited for Season 4 despite the mixed reactions. Let's jump in. To understand why Season 3 of Tensura disappointed many fans, we need to take a step back and revisit what made the first two seasons so beloved. From its debut, Tensura carved a unique space in the crowded isekai genre by offering a blend of action-packed moments, lighthearted humor, and meaningful world-building. It wasn't just about Rimuru becoming an overpowered slime, it was about the way he used his powers to build a community, foster alliances, and navigate a fantastical yet relatable world. The show had a charm that kept fans invested, balancing fun moments with moments of tension and drama. However, with Season 3, that balance shifted significantly. Instead of the dynamic mix we were used to, the focus turned almost entirely toward world-building and geopolitics. Now, don't get me wrong, world-building is one of Tensura's strengths. The intricacies of Rimuru's efforts to establish Tempest as a powerful nation, and his negotiations with other leaders, are fascinating in theory. But in execution, Season 3 struggled to make these elements engaging. The anime leaned heavily on long, dialogue-heavy sequences to explain the political landscape, Rimuru's strategies, and the state of Tempest's alliances. While this approach may work well in the light novels, it didn't translate well to the screen. Many episodes felt like we were sitting in on endless boardroom meetings or listening to characters narrate events rather than seeing those events unfold. This shift made the season feel stagnant, with a noticeable lack of the energy and dynamism that defined earlier arcs. As a result, what should have been a deep dive into the complexities of nation-building felt more like a talking heads show, static, overly expository, and, at times, painfully slow. Instead of showing us how Tempest grows, we were told about it in ways that felt detached and, frankly, boring. For an anime that once excelled at drawing viewers into its world, this shift in storytelling left many fans feeling disconnected.
業務一派を取り込み、協力関係を維持するのが上策。そうすることで、エドマリス王はヨウムを、つまり俺たちを味方に引き入れようと動くわけか。
ご明察、恐れ入ります。
ってことは、ヨウムに戦力を貸し出せばいいんだな。
はい。ラーゼンより連絡が入る手はずとなっております。
The second issue is that they went against the basic entertainment principle, show, don't tell, which in animation is a sin. First and foremost, one of the biggest complaints about this season was its over-reliance on exposition. One of the cardinal rules of good storytelling is show, don't tell, and unfortunately, Tensura Season 3 broke this rule not just once, but repeatedly. Rather than animating the key events that could have made the story visually compelling, the season instead relied on dialogue-heavy sequences where characters sat in rooms discussing everything from economics to diplomacy. We spent so much time in these meeting rooms that they practically became the main setting of the season. Fans were quick to point out how these episodes felt less like anime and more like audiobooks with visuals. And honestly, they're not wrong. When you have an animated medium, you have the opportunity to convey depth through visuals, action, and emotional expression. But instead, we got long, drawn-out discussions with static backgrounds and limited animation, which killed the momentum of the story. World-building is undeniably a critical element of Tensura's charm, but it has to be balanced with engaging visuals and storytelling. Watching characters sit in a room and explain political decisions or economic strategies isn't inherently bad, but when that becomes the main way the narrative progresses, it becomes tedious. Many scenes could have been significantly more impactful if we had seen those discussions paired with dynamic imagery, such as visual depictions of how Rimuru's policies are affecting Tempest's growth, or quick cutaways to the real-world consequences of his decisions. Imagine if, instead of watching characters talk about Tempest's economic hardships, we saw scenes of citizens working to improve their livelihoods or struggling under new changes. Or instead of hearing about Rimuru's political maneuvers, we got to witness those interactions play out in dramatic, tension-filled moments. This kind of visual storytelling would have made the world building feel alive and immersive, rather than feeling like a dry lecture. The lack of action and dynamism in these scenes didn't just make them slow, it made them forgettable. And that's a shame because Tensura has always had a unique and vibrant world that thrives on showing viewers the intricacies of its political and societal systems. By relying so heavily on static discussions this season, the anime missed a crucial opportunity to bring its world to life in the way only animation can.
もっと早い段階で介入していたはずです。つまり、俺に手を出す意味はない。今まで隠れていた奴が今さら表立って動きはしないだろうし。コク、忘れてはならないのは、背後にいるのが複数名である可能性が高いということです。確かにな。
Another major issue that Season 3 faced was its pacing, or more specifically, its lack of it. In the first 2 seasons, the pacing struck a great balance between action, comedy, and storytelling. Each episode felt like it moved the plot forward in a meaningful way, keeping fans engaged. However, Season 3 introduced what I'll call the meeting room trap. Far too many episodes were bogged down by repetitive meetings that dominated the screen time. These scenes featured characters sitting around a table, often rehashing details or discussing plans at length. While world-building is an important part of Rimuru's journey to establish a stable nation, this approach became tiresome. Over the course of 24 episodes, it started to feel like we, as viewers, were stuck in an endless meeting ourselves. The issue wasn't just the quantity of these meetings, it was also the execution. Instead of condensing the discussions or presenting them in more dynamic ways, they were stretched out over full episodes. Important conversations that could have been summarized or interwoven with action were instead delivered as long-winded monologues. It's as if the writers forgot that anime is a visual medium, not just a transcript of the light novels. Think about it, how many times did we see our characters debating politics, logistics, or strategy in almost the exact same setting? While some fans appreciated these moments for their depth and realism, for many others, it felt repetitive and, frankly, boring. Yes, Rimuru is trying to build a nation, but when every episode feels like a city council meeting, it's hard to stay invested. I think most of us tuned into Tensura for an exciting adventure, epic battles, emotional character arcs, and clever strategies. We wanted to see Rimuru navigate the challenges of diplomacy and politics in a way that shows his growth, not just tells us about it. But this season's pacing dragged those moments down to a crawl. It became more about talking through problems than actually experiencing the highs and lows of solving them. Pacing matters. When an anime slows down this much, it becomes a challenge for even the most loyal fans to stay engaged. What should have been a thrilling journey of nation building and overcoming challenges felt like an extended detour into bureaucracy. And in a medium built on storytelling through motion and emotion, that's a big misstep.
手紙に近い存在だ。下手すれば魔王にすらなれよう。
似たようなものだがな。外れだ。貴様らの仲間と戦っているベニマルたちは鬼だが、私は少し違う方向に進化したらしい。私は鬼なのだよ。だからお前たちが考えているよりも優しくないぞ。
One of the most debated aspects of this season is whether it was too faithful to the light novels. Now, staying true to the source material is usually a good thing. Fans love seeing the story they've read brought to life on screen. However, not everything that works in a novel translates well into anime, and Tensura season May 3rd have taken its fidelity to the light novels a bit too far. This season's approach was almost a 1:1 adaptation of the dialogue-heavy world-building straight from the page. While this level of loyalty might please die-hard novel fans, it didn't leave much room for creative adaptation. The result? A season that felt more like an audiobook with visuals than a dynamic, engaging anime. Where previous seasons gave us big moments like Rimuru's fight against Orc Disaster or his ascension to Demon Lord, Season 3 leaned heavily into telling us about its world-building, instead of showing us. The dialogue-heavy focus didn't just slow the pacing, it alienated fans who came into this season expecting a faster-paced narrative and, let's be honest, more action-packed scenes. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not that we don't appreciate the depth of Tensura's world-building, it's one of the reasons the series became so popular in the first place. But anime is a visual medium. That depth needs to be translated into something that's not just narratively compelling but also visually engaging. And unfortunately, that didn't happen here. When you have a dialogue-heavy section in a novel, you can afford to linger on descriptions and exposition because the reader's imagination fills in the gaps. But in anime, you have the power to replace long speeches with visuals that show the same information more efficiently and entertainingly. Think about how impactful it could have been if we saw more of Tempest's citizens adapting to new political decisions or glimpses of Rimuru's strategies unfolding in real time, instead of just being told about it during another meeting. By sticking so rigidly to the light novels, Season 3 missed an opportunity to deliver a more immersive and cinematic experience. Instead of elevating the material to take full advantage of the anime format, it felt like a direct transcription of the text, one that failed to fully captivate its audience. And in a genre as competitive as Isekai, where fans crave both depth and excitement, this lack of adaptation creativity was a big misstep.
控えよ。世は法を類である。そしてこちらにおわすお方こそ我らが神ルミナス様であらせられるぞ。ルミナス様。
One of the unique aspects of Tensura has always been its take on diplomacy and nation building. Rimuru's rise in the political world and his efforts to create peace among nations have been standout themes, setting the series apart from the typical action-packed Isekai. Many fans loved watching Rimuru establish the nation of Tempest, blending diplomacy with his larger-than-life personality. But in Season 3, this strength became somewhat of a weakness. When it comes to politics and storytelling, conflict and messiness are what make it compelling. Unfortunately, this season leaned into a portrayal of Rimuru as almost flawless, his plans always worked out, and everything seemed to fall into place with little real resistance. This overly optimistic portrayal of nation building lowered the stakes considerably. Sure, it's wholesome, and it's nice to see Rimuru achieve his goals, but at the same time, it's just not that interesting or realistic. Fans noted that it was hard to stay invested when we knew everything would work out perfectly in Rimuru's favor. Conflict and struggle are what make political narratives exciting, and Season 3 simply didn't deliver enough of either. A more realistic and gritty take on Rimuru's political journey could have added much-needed tension and drama. What if some of his plans failed? What if key alliances fell apart, or we saw more of the fallout from his growing power? These elements could have created compelling challenges for Rimuru to overcome, keeping viewers on the edge of their seats. Of course, part of Tensura's charm has always been its optimism, but even then, a little unpredictability goes a long way. By making Rimuru's rise so smooth and resistance so minimal, Season 3 missed an opportunity to add more depth and drama to the series. Alright, I know we've gone over a lot of the issues with this season, but let's not forget Tensura's strengths even in Season 3. Yes, the pacing may have been slow, and the reliance on exposition was heavy, but the series still managed to retain some of the charm that made it so beloved in the first place. For one, the character interactions still had their spark. Whether it was Rimuru's easygoing leadership style or the loyalty and banter among his companions, those dynamics brought a certain warmth to the show. While we might have wanted more depth or conflict, there's something undeniably comforting about seeing the characters we've grown attached to continue their journey together. Rimuru's goal of building a peaceful nation may have been overly smooth, but it's still a refreshing take for an Isekai series and MC who values diplomacy over brute force. On the technical side, let's talk about the production quality. The animation, while underutilized this season, was still solid. Even in the dialogue-heavy scenes, the visuals maintained a consistent quality, and when the action did happen, though rare, it looked great. And we can't ignore the sound design, which continues to shine. The music, the sound effects, and the voice acting all worked together to create the immersive world of Tensura. Whether it was setting the tone during political negotiations or building tension in the few fight scenes we got, the sound design consistently delivered. Even when the season didn't always deliver on its potential, there were still enjoyable moments scattered throughout. For fans who truly loved the world of Tensura, these glimpses of charm, humor, and heart were valuable. At the end of the day, this series still holds a special place in many of our hearts. So, will I be watching Season 4? Absolutely. Despite the frustrations with Season 3, Tensura is a series that has a special place in my heart. Watching Rimuru's journey from a simple slime to the leader of a thriving nation has been nothing short of rewarding. It's a story that's had its highs and lows, but at its core, it's still the Tensura we've come to love. Season may third not have hit all the right notes, it slowed down the pacing, relied too heavily on exposition, and lacked the dynamism we're used to. But even with these flaws, it's hard not to appreciate the ambition of the series. It dared to focus on diplomacy, nation-building, and world-building in a genre that often leans too heavily on action and spectacle. And while that direction didn't land perfectly this time, it's a testament to the show's willingness to try something different. Looking forward, I'm hopeful that Season 4 can recapture the magic of Seasons 1 and 2, a balance of action, adventure, humor, and meaningful storytelling. I'd love to see the series shift back to the dynamic energy that first drew us in, while still maintaining the thoughtful world-building that sets it apart. At the end of the day, I have a nostalgic attachment to Tensura. It's a series that's given us memorable characters, epic moments, and a unique spin on the Isekai genre. So here's to a more dynamic and engaging season 4. I'll be watching, and I hope you'll join me for the ride.